we've allowed privacy to be configurable. It's like, do I want to know everything about Guillermo? What do I want to know? I want to know his employee ID. I want to know how he's tracking. Like if you look at call center environments, we have a customer as a call center. They want to know because they're not only tracking safety, but they want to know. I want to know exactly how many calls this person is taking. I want to know how many keystrokes they're hitting.
Welcome to UpTech Report. This is our Applied Tech series. UpTech Report is sponsored by TerraLeap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. Today, I am joined by my guest, Guillermo Diaz Jr., who also goes by G. You can ask him later about that. He's based in Silicon Valley. He's the CEO of Kloudspot. Welcome, G. Good to have you on.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for saying my name correctly. A lot of times I get Guillermo or Geronimo or Gorillamo. So yeah,
you're like just G. G works.
Just G if it's easier. Yeah.
I love it. So now Kloudspot is a situational awareness intelligence platform. And you guys are really focused on CIOs of enterprise or school, other folks that have a lot of people that they have to manage and understand both the data and get some intelligence from that actual on-location experience. Now, you previously, a CIO of Cisco, you were in that role. You had a lot of people you had to manage and understand where they were, what was going on. What was that pain, that headache that you were experiencing? What was that like to be the CIO of Cisco?
Well, yeah, I know. So I was on the other side of the table, and we had at Cisco, we had nearly 75,000 people that we had to kind of understand what their needs were, right? And a lot of the hybrid work that we're talking about today is a lot of that we were already doing at Cisco, but we didn't really have this need for the situation called COVID or something along those lines. We did it as a course of normal business, and so not only me as managing inside of Cisco's four walls, which was very large, but also as the CIO of a technology company, a lot of other CIOs, CMOs, and really even facilities folks would come asking, "Hey, how are you guys doing it inside of Cisco? How are you doing the Cisco on Cisco story?" Meaning, how are you using your own technologies to change your business process?
Knowing what's going on, right?
So I had to also see and be executive sponsor, of many different customers, like industries like retail, whether it's Target or Walmart, or energy like Exxon or Chevron, working in the financial space with a lot of the Citibanks and Morgan Stanleys of the world, JP Morgan Chases, and then being able to understand their pain as well, because we all sort of shared maybe 75% of the challenge, but then there's a 30% that's specific to their industry, right?
Right. So break down that 70%. What is the pain? What is the problem? If you had to quantify it and describe it.
Yeah, the 75% is how do I make sure that my clients, my customers have the tools, the experiences, and the productivity that they need. Because at the end of the day, we have to make sure that every person inside of our organization is productive, has a great experience, and that we understand how to best support them from the operational standpoint. Now, there's this one aspect called security and safety, which is also there. We had to make sure that everybody's secure and safe. But let's be honest, pre-COVID, that
was a very different definition.
Was a third or fourth on the list. I mean, let's really put it out there. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Now it's fast forward over the top is a horizontal. And every industry, every CEO, CIO, CHRO, they're all worried about this now, right?
How do you take care of your people? How do you make sure it's a safe environment, engaged environment, people feel comfortable coming, and that you're managing it, monitoring it effectively. And that's where ideally
Yeah.
technology comes into play. And being at Cisco, I mean, that talk about IoT and just like
Yeah.
technology, that is the place.
Exactly. I mean, do you have somebody there, monitoring, or do you have technology helping you gather in real time the information that you need to make sure that people are safe, to make sure that they're productive, having a great experience? So now safety is at the top of mind,
Now
and you can't really scale if you don't have leverage technology, which has landed in our laps in the last 18 months.
so for you, you joined Cloudspot about a year and a half ago, actually, right before the pandemic. You joined
February of 20, yes.
and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. This is so much opportunity. I think in our pre-chat, you mentioned about, using CloudSpot, creating badass experiences, and then COVID happens. What did you feel? What were you experiencing in that moment?
Well, it's interesting because we were creating these, as you call them, badass experiences, and we were working a lot with large customers, and large events, like physical events, where large amounts of people would go to an event like the RSA conference, or which is a security conference, for those that don't know, or they would go to large automobile conferences and shows. So we would be able to really understand who's going to the venue, right? How are they moving, and what are they looking at? Are they looking at this really cool car? And and now we understand, it's like, hey, this person must really like this kind of car. So let's make sure that the downstream analytics and insights give us what
Yeah.
pinpoint, how are we going to provide that person with even a better experience to say, hey, look at this digital display, there's a really cool raffle going on, or something along those lines.
Right. Taking a deep moment on this, because I pulled it from your website, taking a moment on this. So you guys, the CloudSpot is taking data from Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, environmental sensors, connected cameras,
Yeah.
and then basically converting all that data into meaningful insights as the one who's running this event or experience, to then trigger other types of experiences in play in that moment, or just provide like a dashboard of insights. That, if I understood correctly,
Yes,
that's
correct. Yeah, correct. And so what we're an AI platform, an AI meets IoT platform, because what we're pulling in is data from, let's call it, IoT devices. And an IoT could be an environmental sensor, could be a camera, could be a network access point, or a BLE beacon. And we're in real time, we're taking all of that, or it could be even your phone or some other device, a Bluetooth, wristband or badge, and we're pulling that together, and we're contextualizing that in real time, and we're driving awareness both for the end consumer, but also for our customer, who is the venue owner or the venue manager, so they can get better real time insights to say, oh, how do I best serve that consumer? And
is
then
this like
we really look at how do we predict what action needs to be taken, and then there's a continuous learning mode. So we're partnered with the sensor
will create them, but you
providers.
just integrate with all the different
Correct.
hardware and IoT that's coming out. Now, I'm
Right.
curious. I mean, this concept of tracking the data, being able to get insights using AI to say, okay, what the heck are all this inputs from these IoT devices mean? Is this commonplace now? I mean, like, if I go to any event, is this going to be normal, or is it like, are we still in that early adopter phase? I'm curious of overall adoption of this type of technology.
Well, I think now, more than ever, technology is going to be a key factor, because let's now put the over the top issue on the table again, which is, when I go to that venue now, I I need to ensure that you feel safe going there, and that even while you're in there, that we provide a level of safety measure and so forth, while we're giving you an engaging experience, right?
In many ways,
So
COVID has been the catalyst for greater technology adoption across the
100%.
board. And so what you're saying, it applies
Yeah.
same to this in-person environmental IoT data capturing and analysis.
Yeah. And being able to then, really, like, for example, one of our largest customers, and it's one of the largest venues that will happen this year, and events, is the World Expo, right? The World Expo will happen in Dubai starting in October. Well, we've been working with them for the last probably 18 months. And so the original intent of that expo was to really understand who's coming into the World Expo. Now, let's put it in perspective. There's 1,000 acres of land that is covered here. They expect, or at that time, they expected that over the 6 months of the World Expo, there'll be about 25 million customers coming through the door. Well, how do I get them? And the thought was, how do I get them a great experience while they're there? How do I know how to send Guillermo to the pavilion of X, Y, or Z? Because those are the kinds of things that we know that he likes. How do I make sure that that we understand the pattern and the density? They've termed our platform the density and population management system. So they want to know how many people are in there. They want to know the density, the movement, and the patterns. And but now you go, COVID hits, and now we have, oh, by the way, in order for them to even go in there, they need to feel safe. Mm-hmm. So now you have a layer of safety and security surrounding everything that we're doing. So we've now embedded that into our platform. That's now a.
So how are you guys?
Stakes.
How are you approaching safety then? Because I've heard a lot of ideas in the past year of what it will be like to travel, to go to events, to be present amongst a lot of other people. How are you guys approaching it using technology?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple of points and I think why we're different is, there's obviously a point where I'm almost 100% remote, or I'm at least 90% remote. So I start my day at my home, and now the world's starting to open up again. So offices and venues are starting to open up. Well, how do I know it's safe to go there? Well, I have now let's just take an office space. So I now have a way to what we call cloud hybrid, is I can actually check to see what is available in the office. I can see that if there's a physical space open, and I know that when I check into that and when I go there, that it's going to be clean, because already I have sent the signal to the cleaning folks that says, when I arrive or when I check in, there's requirements for me in order to be there. And those are first, that space needs to be clean. But the other part is, I need to actually go through my health questionnaire, and then now folks are starting to say, well, let's at least ask, maybe this goes into privacy, let's at least ask if they've been vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Right? So you kind of go through that motion, and then it allows you to check in. Now, once I'm there, I'm at the space, and now through either a digital display and what we call vision, our cloud vision, we're able to detect if policy dictates that I'm wearing a mask, right? So am I wearing a mask? And also we're pulling in thermal sensors from as a temperature reading. So are you wearing a mask plus thermal reading? Yes, check, boom. Yes, check, boom. Now I'm entered the venue. Now, as I move through, now I'm understanding the movement and the pattern. Is there congestion happening in the space? If there is, then look, there are, in like in certain spaces and some of our customers, they'll have digital display saying, here's the heat map, a little bit too much congestion. Maybe, you might want to send a friendly nudge, go, kind of keep some distance, right?
You go
So
walk through
those,
and on the signs around you say, "Hey, you guys are crowding. Take a step
yeah,
back."
and by the way, and those signs could be used. They could be used for safety, but that same signal could be sent to a phone or could be sent to something else. But at the same time, it's like, well, guess what? I'm not just using those signs for safety. I'm also using it to tell the team, hey, here's our communication of the day. Like if you go to our office, I have whatever I wanted to say to whoever's in the venue. I want them to know, hey, our priority of the day is X, and we want to be able to tell our customers what we do. And here's a couple of marketing or a couple of sales points you should think about, and everybody's should know this, right? So you're using it as safe. You're using that
Safety and communication. It's coming back to one of your original purposes, but now that the prime conversation or in front of everyone's mind at the moment is safety and how you approach it. It's
you
interesting
won't
how
get people there if they don't feel safe, right?
yeah, they won't want to come, and that's where if we look at your stack that you kind of just described all the way through of the many pieces involved, I feel like that's where I guess the CIO would be able to choose which they want to enable, like the cleaning crew. We want them to be able to be on connected to this so they know to go and clean, or we want thermal imaging to be connected to this, or we want the mask detection. Is that kind of like a checkbox of like CIO just goes down the list and say, yeah, I actually want it full, all of it, all the way, or just a couple pieces kind of thing?
Well, it is exactly that, because the way that you go through and actually look, kind of walk through the configuration of the platform, it's very easy. It's like, do you want, and the pivot for us actually was interesting because we used to pre-COVID like construction zones and construction companies, they wanted to detect when someone comes in, am I wearing a helmet, goggles, gloves, right? And so when COVID hit, we said, well, wait a minute, we can actually do this because we can detect now. We just now imaged this, what the mask looks like, and it took some modeling and so forth, but it was already in the architecture.
But
But
reapplied it to say instead of hats and
yeah,
gloves, let's just have masks, and then you could roll it out
so
to
it's so
anybody.
so what we did now is, if you look at the configuration, it's very simple. It's helmet, gloves, and then there's various kinds of gloves, because there's the work gloves and then there's the PPE gloves. We had to model those, and then there's the mask. So it's like, and if you want to take it off, you just unclick it. That's how easy it is, right?
Let's
And
talk
all
about.
the modeling is happening in the platform.
So let's talk about, since it naturally lends into that, the end person, the employee, the customer, or I think you also do schools, so like even students,
Yeah.
the privacy aspect of like, all right, you're tracking me based off of my phone as I come in, you're looking at my face. I mean, how do you perceive? I mean, are people going to get weirded out by how much they're being tracked, and what have you heard and seen?
Oh, we hear this every conversation. Well, what about privacy? What about, and so I think if you look at the different industries, if you look at workspace and office space, it really varies by the actual, it varies. There's standard rules now by CDC that everyone, and the local regulations, that folks have to deal with, right? But now each organization, each company has their own policy, right? So for us, we've, again, back to the configurable approach, we've allowed privacy to be configurable. It's like, do I want to know everything about Guillermo? What do I want to know? I want to know his employee ID. I want to know how he's tracking. Like if you look at call center environments, we have a customer that has a call center. They want to know because they're not only tracking safety, but they want to know. I want to know exactly how many calls this person is taking. I want to know how many keystrokes they're hitting. So they have much more granularity in how they want to approach the privacy or the productivity, privacy, and security issue, because and it's really up to me, Guillermo, if I want to, if I want to go to the office, number one, and number two, if I want to work in that company.
Employee self decision of like, if I'm going to work at this company, I know what their privacy policies are. If we switch then to customers for a moment, like you talked about the World Expo or other types of events where you're going, what's the approach that you've seen there of, detecting and tracking people, and what's the future look like when it comes to?
Again, I think it varies, and again, we provide the flexibility in the platform to configure privacy, because I may not want to know it all. I just want to know that somebody's there, and that's okay too, because we can allow that. But to this point, on sort of open venues like an event, what happens a lot of times is the customer wants you to join the network, and when you join the network, I think we should all probably look in much more detail about what we're clicking to accept, right? And so I think, I think this is this social dilemma piece, right? Which is, I don't want you to know anything about me, but I'm putting all of my stuff on every social platform openly, and I'm clicking on all the events and those kinds of things, or the networks.
I've heard this as well. It's like comes to all, and again, people say self-responsibility as an end consumer. You should be reading your agreements. Though some have approached that of there should be a standardization or at least a base that everyone knows what it is. Yeah. And I'm curious what this future will look like.
Yeah, so I think the future looks like you need to make that much easier for a consumer to understand. Mm-hmm. So I think there should, we need to really keep helping drive awareness and standards around. Here's a set of common rules that if you're connecting to any network, here's the things that you need to know. But I would also say that everyone that's providing these, and what we aim to do is continually put security into the platform, so that when you're connecting to us, is that you're connecting to a secure, a secure environment.
The data itself needs to be,
and we're not, and we're going to be responsible with your data. And we want to make sure that our partners who we partner with, because let's face it, as technology becomes even more pervasive, which it has in the last 18 months, the number of sensors and devices and apps and APIs that are all calling each other, you're only as good as your weakest link, right? So if somebody has a security hole and you're pushing data to them and an API to them, then you and they have a hole, you have a hole. So you really have to look at your
ecosystem of your IoT devices, right? and everything that's connected to it.
Yeah.
This pops in my head when I think of marketing and I think of an event and you're going somewhere. sci-fi, right? Science fiction, and there's movies where was it Minority Report, where he walks through this hallway and all these ads are popping out to him, John, because they can say his name. It's all in a database, and I think some people are concerned and wonder, is that going to be the future where we'll just know who we are? In some ways, it can be nice when things are customized to our experience, because then we can get a better experience. But where's the balance of privacy but a good experience?
Yeah, it's funny you bring up that movie. That movie was like, I think it was like 2003 or four, right? And it was and we often refer
20
to it
years.
like, we want to know something before it actually happens, and that's kind of what I think the future will be like. Hopefully not, like so dramatic like that, but for the good of the and the safety. Again, I go back to, we used to think about it in terms of, let's give a great experience. Let's make sure that we're capturing data to improve the operation, and then ensure that safety and health are there. Now I think it's really safety and health. Let's make sure that when you
Priority.
go there, that you feel safe, that you're getting a great experience, and that we are using that data for the good, for that we're using it to make sure that we continue to keep you safe, that we're using it to provide you with the best experience possible. I had, this was when I first took on Kloudspot, and we had done a lot of this at Cisco, but I wasn't eavesdropping, but I was at a hotel lobby in the bar area, and I noticed, there was a woman. Well, I was with my sons there, and there was a woman that was ordering a drink, and the manager walked up to her and said, "Hey, how did you like your steak last night? Da, da, da. I hope you enjoyed your meal, right?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for even noticing." And then she says, "Hey," yeah, she says, we started chatting, and then she says, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I work for this, I used to work at Cisco. I work for this company called Kloudspot, and this is what we do." She goes, "Why do you do that? I don't want you to know about me." And I was like, "Can I ask you a question?" Like, I wasn't eavesdropping, but I was standing right next to you when that manager came up and asked you about your dinner and your experience. You were so happy that he did that, right? And she said, "Yeah, he knew all the stuff." I said, "How do you think he knew that? Did he serve, was he the server, or was it around you last night?" She says, "No." And I said, "Well, are you a loyalty member? Are you, connected to the network? Are you, she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Then that's how he knows, right?"
You're being tracked. You just don't, this how
Yeah,
it's comes out and
right.
experience.
Yeah. And I went on to say, is like, and by the way, do you have, at home, do you have something like, you know, Alexa or Google or whatever? And she said, "Yeah, I have both of them." I said, "They know about you, right?" And so it's this interesting dilemma that I think, what I have pushed our team, and I know our founders and the other guys that really are working on the platform, we really are continually pushing the notion of how do we drive not just safety from keeping people safe, but safety in the form of keeping people's privacy safe and people's data safe, as to the extent that is, allows that the experience, and so forth. Because you could also say, well, you've gone too far, and now there's, I can't even have an experience. That some people opt into that experience, and so this is that balance that I think we're going to have to keep driving education awareness and technology capabilities into the platform.
the technology innovation isn't going to stop. If anything, it's only there are going to be more opportunities, more IoT devices, more ability to connect and draw in the data, and then the desire and need to track it. But how people understand that it's used and how it's used, I think, is where most the conversation needs to happen. I feel like that people know it's happening, but how are companies using it? That, like, for instance, you say the hotel. I love that. That's a great example. We want a good experience. We want that company, that hotel, to recognize us as a person. And I feel like if companies can do that and not just feel like, oh, that I'm being watched by something I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe is the balance of the.
So I think it goes back to awareness. Is like make it aware that this is happening, and don't. I think a lot of times is, I have a Tesla, so I'm driving in my Tesla, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, 14 miles from home, it's like, I didn't ask you to give me, right? But it knows, right?
Yep.
So, but at the same time, I'm like, well, that was pretty cool, but then I go, well, how did they know? Right. And so I think continuous education, awareness, and then and that life cycle is just going to keep getting more and more advanced.
Just for fun, I'm curious if you could wave a magic wand, have any type of technology in existence right now that's not here quite yet. What would you want?
Oh, what would I want? What would it's simple. I hate traffic, right? So I would want to like drive out of my garage and my wheels just kind of go from vertical to horizontal, and I lift up and I and I drive and I'm now moving
air travel, personal
travel. Air travel, which by the way requires will require sensors that are not necessarily even in the on the ground, but in the air, right? And so how do I keep that traffic in a moving?
That's a whole nother field. Is air travel? I think that's going to be in the next explosion in many ways. I don't know how far.
But think about it today. Like if you go like and like if you're driving in an autonomous vehicle, again Tesla, but it can actually guide you and move you into the lanes and so forth. So, but how do you now take that to the skies, right? And so, to answer the question, I hate traffic. I hate lines. So the thing that can actually get me through, through traffic and through lines as quick as possible, because otherwise I want to sit at home and order something, and I'm a people guy. I like to be out and about, so I'd rather be out and about and get through the lines that I need to get through in the most efficient way possible. And I think the only way to do that is through technology.
I love it. Well, I appreciate both the journey you've been on from CIO at Cisco and seeing that people need it and being able to have all this concept, and then coming to Kloudspot, the opportunity to service this, and the journey that you guys been on from first just badass experiences, your words there, to now that safe, providing safe and engaged experiences. I'm excited to see where you guys are headed, and even the World Expo being able to support that. For those that want to learn more, go over to kloudspot.com. That's KLOUD spot.com. And it looks like you can be able to request a demo, dig in a bit more. But your target market for those out there, it's CIOs or of probably enterprise companies or large events, or I think schools as well. Did I catch that right?
Yeah, I think if I were to kind of go and sort of order a battle, I think the world right now is ready to open. I think the priority has been making sure there's safe back to back to venue, back to office, back to an event, back to a city, back to an event, and back to school, right? And And I still strongly believe that, people say, well, why not healthcare? And I'm like, I think healthcare has now gone from this, again, this is my perspective, from a vertical to a horizontal. And so the notion of caring for our health, whether it's like, well, an illness or just even wellness, and having this notion of being able to create an environment where I want to have flexibility. I want to be home when I need to be home. I want to be in the office when I need to be there, or I can work from somewhere in between. But that kind of connectivity is seamless, and the tools that I use are seamless. And our target, kind of customer is, we say the CIO, but the CMO and the CRO, because we have compliance now and safety. You can't have people sick in the environment. So the HR team is really concerned with that. At the same time, marketing folks, they want to be able to give you that great experience. So what you see over the last 18 months is IT, or the technology teams, have actually become the glue. And so my aim as a former CIO, and being a part of a CIO community, is to help the CIO be the hero. And so that's kind of the that's kind of my nerd.
I love that. You want CIOs to be the hero, the glue between the entire organization, using technology to make it happen. I love it. Thank you so much, G, for sharing your journey. This has been awesome.
Thanks a lot.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode of UpTech Report. Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.